The night was thick with Lagos humidity, the kind that clung to your skin and made even air feel like fabric. Zina Okoro, 23, was used to discomfort. She wore it like a second skin, growing up in a cramped room shared with 4 siblings, living day by day on her mother's small earnings from selling roasted corn at the market. Her dreams had always been too big for the streets she lived on. That night, Zina stood outside Velvet, a glowing high-rise hotel that only existed in her world as a glimmering fantasy. Her friend Aisha had dared her to go inside. "You never know what fate looks like until it stares you in the face," Aisha had said with a grin. Zina wasn't supposed to go in. But she did. She walked through glass doors, air-conditioned whispers curling around her bare shoulders. Inside, it smelled of expensive leather, cigar smoke, and jasmine. The kind of place where the powerful pretended to be ordinary. And that's where she saw him. Billionaire Maduka. Dark-skinned, tall, commanding. A man who looked like he owned not just the room, but the idea of the room. Billionaire tech mogul. Investor. Politician's nightmare. Tabloid obsession. But that night, he was sitting alone, sipping a drink like he was waiting for something or someone. Their eyes locked. Zina didn't speak first. Neither did he. But fate moved. A soft motion of his hand. An invitation. A test. She crossed the room. What followed was not a fairy tale, not a night wrapped in romance. It was strange. Charged. He asked her questions no man had ever asked. What do you think money really is? If you could break one law without being punished, which one would it be? Do you believe some people are born with secrets inside them? They didn't kiss. They didn't undress. But when she left his penthouse at 3 a.m., she felt undone, as if she had lived 10 years in one night. In her palm, he placed a sealed black envelope. No name. No instructions. The next morning, the world shifted. Zina woke to banging on her door. Reporters. Cameras. Someone shouting her name. She turned on her cracked phone screen. Breaking news, billionaire Billionaire Maduka missing after hotel incident. Last seen with unknown woman. Her picture was everywhere. The black envelope lay untouched on her table. Inside it was a key. A USB drive. And a note. They'll come for you. But you must finish what I started. You're the only one I trust. B. Zina's fingers trembled as she read the note again. Finish what I started. What did that mean? What had she been dragged into? Outside, the knocking had turned to pounding. She peered through the dusty curtain. Journalists. Police. Maybe worse. She shoved the USB and note into her bra, wrapped the key in a sock, and shoved it into her backpack. Her mother was still at morning mass. She didn't have time. Zina slipped out the back door, crossing over the neighborhood's narrow gutter to disappear into the maze of alleys she knew like veins. She needed answers. 4 hours later, inside a cheap internet cafe, Yoba. The screen flickered as the files on the USB opened. Encrypted folders. Hidden documents. One labeled, Project NDU. Another, Offshore Transfers. One folder wasn't locked. It contained dozens of surveillance photos, people in suits, government officials, businessmen. And then she saw her own photo. From the night before. Standing beside Billionaire. Her heart raced. Someone had been watching them. The cafe attendant tapped the desk. "Madam, your time is almost up." Zina quickly copied the folder to her cloud account. She didn't understand what she was looking at, but she knew one thing: it was dangerous. She left the cafe and called the only person she trusted, Aisha. "Come to my aunt's place in Surulere. And come alone, Aisha whispered. That night, Suraliya safe house. Are you insane? Aisha shouted, staring at the files. This is not student gist, Zina. These are government people. These are criminals. Zina was silent. Her eyes were blank, her hands trembling. Why you? Aisha finally asked. I don't know. But I think he planned this. Aisha's phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text flashed on screen, we know where she is. Then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room like a wave. The humming fan went still, and outside, the street grew eerily silent. Zina's heart pounded. She grabbed Aisha's arm. Who sent that message? I don't know, Aisha whispered, breath shaky. A loud knock echoed through the compound gate. Then another. Then silence. Aisha reached under the table and pulled out an old baseball bat. You go out through the back window, she hissed. I'll hold them if they break in. Zina didn't argue. She grabbed her backpack and climbed out into the humid night. She didn't look back. Hours later, abandoned warehouse, or papa. She had no place left. No one she trusted. Her phone was dead. Her body sore. Her mind racing. The only clue she had was the name on the folder, Project NDU. She opened the backup copy of the files on a friend's burner laptop she'd hidden days ago. A single unencrypted video file caught her attention. Zina clicked. Billionaire appeared on screen, dressed in all black, seated behind a desk. The background looked like a safe house. If you're watching this, it means I'm either dead or forced underground, he began. Project NDU was a covert operation. Meant to expose corruption at the highest level. If this reaches the wrong hands, people will die. Zina sat frozen. Zina, Billionaire said, suddenly. Her name. You're the only one who asked me questions back. The only one who didn't flinch. That's why I chose you. You have to release the documents to the journalist listed in the file named Torch. He will know what to do. Her hands trembled again. But something new stirred inside her. Purpose. Following day, inside a Danfo bus, heading to Festac. She clutched her backpack tightly. Her eyes scanned everyone. She was being watched, she felt it. A man in a black hoodie kept glancing at her from the back of the bus. When she got off at Festac Junction, so did he. She ducked into a crowded market and slipped into a dress store, heart racing. She sent a single message to the email in the Torch folder. Asterisk, have the files. Need safe meeting. Urgent. Z. A reply came 2 minutes later. Ajo's library. 2 p.m. Come alone. 2 p.m., Ajo's library. Zina sat near the dusty back shelves. Her fingers gripped her pepper spray. She prayed. A man approached. Lean. Bearded. Wearing an old university blazer. He nodded at her calmly. I'm Folarin. I was waiting for this day. Billionaire trusted you. So do I. She handed over the drive. He plugged it into his laptop, checked the files, and whistled. This will burn everything down. Zina sighed, for the first time in days. Then the windows shattered. Men in black burst in. Gunshots. She dove behind the shelves. Folarin shouted, run. Go. I have the files. Zina ran. Through the emergency door. Into the light. Zina stumbled into the blinding sun, barely catching her breath as she dashed down the alley beside the library. The distant sound of sirens blended with shouting behind her. She turned a corner sharply and slipped into a mechanic's shed, crouching behind stacked tires. Her body trembled. Her clothes were damp with sweat. Her mind felt splintered. She didn't know whether Folarin had survived. She didn't know who those men were. But she knew now, this was no longer a story she could run from. It was inside her. Buried in her fate. She waited nearly half an hour until the chaos outside quieted. Cautiously, she stepped back onto the road, blending in with passers-by. Her instincts guided her toward the only person left who might help her. Aisha. Suralere, 2 days later. Aisha's aunt's house was charred. Burnt remains. Police tape. Zina stood across the street, hand over her mouth. The media had moved on. Neighbors whispered about gas leaks, but Zina knew better. Aisha was gone. Her world shrank. Rage replaced fear. She found a public internet cafe. Sent a message to Folarin's secure contact. Aisha is gone. I want in. I want to finish what Billionaire started. Where do I begin? Reply received. We meet tonight. Marina Bay Park. Midnight. Wear black. Don't be followed. Marina Bay Park, midnight. The city skyline glittered across the dark lagoon. Zina sat beneath an old baobab tree, waiting. A man approached. Not Folarin. This one was taller, broad-shouldered, carrying a discreet earpiece. You Zina? She nodded. He motioned her to follow. They walked through a private back gate into a secured compound, past hidden cameras and infrared lights. A steel door opened into what looked like an underground war room. Folarin sat inside. Glad you're alive, he said. And angry. We can use both. He introduced her to a team of 3. Tay, former forensic banker. Ndozi, cyber hacker. Colonel Itam, ex-military intelligence. We are Torch, Folarin said. A shadow cell Billionaire funded to expose Project NDU. But the government cracked down hard. They killed our main witness. Burned our contacts. Now they think you are just a stray girl who got lucky. That's our advantage. Zina leaned in. What exactly is Project NDU? Colonel Itam answered. It's not one project. It's a code for a network of illegal arms trading, human trafficking, and vote rigging controlled by 6 men known as the Circle. Billionaire infiltrated them. Until he disappeared. Folarin continued. We believe Billionaire is still alive. Hidden. Or imprisoned. Either way, we have to move fast. He dropped a dossier in front of Zina. You're our next agent. Zina stared. Her hands no longer trembled. What do I have to do? Operation Lion Tooth. Zina's mission, use her new public identity, the girl who spent one night with the billionaire, to gain access to a masquerade gala organized by a suspected Circle financier, Chief Adebayo, Minister of Maritime Affairs. He'll be curious about you, Ndozi said. They all are. You have something they fear, mystery. 3 nights later, the gala. Zina walked into the marble-floored ballroom, head high, mask in place. Gold dress. Curled hair. Confidence crafted like armor. Chief Adebayo spotted her instantly. Oh, the famous girl of the hour. Come, tell me what magic you worked on our dear Billionaire. She smiled coyly. Only what he asked for. Laughter. Wine. Conversation. She passed a coded flash drive under the table to an ally disguised as a waiter. Downloaded data from Chief's private tablet. Took photos of Circle members on site. Hours later, back at Torch HQ, they decrypted files. A hidden ledger. Proof of offshore accounts. Names. Transactions. Bribes. And a single message. Move Billionaire to Zone 17. No digital trail. Colonel Itam gasped. Zone 17 is military black site. Off the books. Torture center. Zina stood slowly. Then we get him out. Final mission, the extraction. Torch planned the raid with precision. Zina would lead the distraction. Ndozi would black out comms. Itam and Folarin would breach. That night, a storm hit Lagos. Rain swept the city as they drove toward a compound buried beneath the hills. Security was thick. But Torch was thicker. Explosions rocked the gate. Gunfire. Zina ran through corridors, heart pounding. She opened a cell door, and there he was. Billionaire. Bruised. Shackled. Alive. He looked up. You came. She smiled. Told you I was curious. Itam cut the chains. They escaped through the underground tunnel. The rain washed away the smoke. 1 month later, national broadcast. Zina stood beside Billionaire on national TV. Torch had released the files. The government had collapsed. Circle members arrested. Then, the final twist. Billionaire stepped aside at the press conference. I promised Nigeria a leader who knew suffering. Who earned her power. That leader is Zina Okoro. Gasps. Cameras flashed. Zina stood tall. From the slums to the state. From silence to command. She looked into the lens. My name is Zina. I was just a girl who asked questions. And now, I am ready to answer history. The air in Abuja carried a strange stillness. Not the kind born from silence, but the type born from suspense. The world watched. Africa watched. And in the heart of the presidential palace, Zina Okoro stared out from her balcony as a new dawn painted the sky golden. Behind her, aides whispered into phones. Journalists prepped their microphones. A speech was being finalized. History waited. But Zina wasn't thinking about politics. She was thinking about the girl who left home in slippers. The one who ran from shame. The one who found a billionaire, and then found herself. 1 week earlier. Billionaire had declined the interim presidency. He gave his testimony, exposed the circle, and vanished from the public eye. Zina, now seen as the voice of the revolution, was nominated by a coalition of activists, youth leaders, and reformers. Parliament voted. She won. Unanimously. She sat in a circle with Torch. Now what? She asked. Itam replied, now you build. But never forget who they tried to make you. She nodded. Her plan was already forming. Zina's first actions as president. Declared emergency reforms across education, electricity, and internet access in rural regions. Launched the Billionaire Fund, a nationwide grant program for women entrepreneurs. Ordered an independent investigation into all ministries linked to the circle. Created a presidential youth council with members from every region. Social media exploded. Some called it impossible. Others called her naive. But most called her hope. The personal costs. Not everyone welcomed her rise. Former elites plotted from exile. Foreign press questioned her past. She slept her way to the top, one international headline read. Zina faced it head-on during an interview. Yes, I met a billionaire, she said calmly. He offered me shelter. But I walked into the storm on my own. I bled for this nation. I was forged, not gifted. The tide turned. The world began to listen. A visit to the past. 1 month after her inauguration, she traveled, unannounced, to her old neighborhood. The same street. The same tree where she'd once cried alone. A young girl, no older than 12, approached her. "Auntie Zina, is it true you were poor like me?" Zina knelt. "Worse," she said. "But no one stays poor in mind forever. The moment you believe you're meant for more, you've already changed your future." Romance rekindled. That night, she received a call from a private number. "Is the president free for a quiet walk under the stars?" Billy no. They met on the beach. Just the two of them. No guards. No press. He looked thinner. But peaceful. "You changed the world," he whispered. "We did," she corrected. They sat barefoot in the sand. Talked until sunrise. Not about politics. But music. Food. Dreams. He touched her hand. "Do you regret any of it?" "Not even the pain," she replied. "Because it brought me here. To this. To us." He smiled. They kissed. Not with urgency. But with understanding. Legacy in motion. Months passed. Under Zina, literacy rose. Corruption dropped. Girls returned to schools. Technology hubs sprang up across West Africa. She became more than president. She became symbol. Songs were written. Films made. And across the continent, little girls repeated her name like a mantra. Zina. 1 year later. She stood before the United Nations. Her voice calm. "We must not wait for billionaires to change nations. We must raise citizens who believe their voice is currency. Their dreams, a policy. Their pain, a revolution." Applause erupted. History was no longer watching. It was following. Final scene, Motherland. Zina returned to her grandmother's grave. Alone. She placed a flower. "You told me I was more than they said. Now, I tell every girl the same. We are not our beginnings. We are our choices." A gust of wind blew gently. She looked up. Smiled. And walked back into the future.